Hello there, friends. I'm Danny J. Norwell, the author of Fairly Familiar and Snapshots of Spain. And today I wanted to talk with you about a recent self-publishing course I took and some of the takeaways that I will be applying to my author career going forward. Let's get into it. All right, so if you've been following along with me on social media or through my newsletter, you already know that I recently finished Sarah Cannon's course called Publish and Thrive. This is a course that she's put together for self-publishing authors who want to not only publish, but also thrive in their author career. And I really resonated with her approach to self-publishing, her approach to really treating it as a business, but also her approach in terms of looking at what your ideal writing career looks like and not simply going after the exact same success that other people have had, but really defining it for yourself. Now, there's no way that in this short video I'll be able to get into everything Sarah covers in 5 weeks of video content and live Q&A sessions, but I want to talk about 3 of the biggest takeaways and how I will specifically be putting those insights into my author career, and actually how I'm already starting to do this as we speak. So the first one is a lesson that I learned very on in the course, but it's the one that has stayed in my mind and stayed very top of mind for me since then, and it is about the importance of genre. Now, I think this is something that I was able to kind of skirt around because I've been publishing a short story collection so far. I didn't really need to create a clear genre that I said I was writing in. However, it's really through taking this course that I realized what a disservice I was doing to myself and my readers for not being more specific about my genre and not having a more niched down category. For this reason, I've done a lot of soul searching, I've done a lot of asking around with people who know my work, and I've finally come to a point where I'm ready to admit that I am a literary fiction and women's fiction author. Now, I know that these 2 genres are ones that I've had some qualms about in the past. I feel you might think that literary fiction is a bit pretentious, or you might think that women's fiction is a bit sexist, and like, what is that even? I'm not going to go into all of the details because I've done this already before on my website. So if you are interested in the details, I'm going to invite you to check out my blog post. It's linked in the description here. But for this video, suffice it to say that those are the genres I've honed in on as what I write. And these are based on the style of writing and the style of endings and the type of character development and themes that I already explore in my writing. I'm simply going to announce this in a way so that I can continue to write intentionally, but also so that I can find the right readers who are specifically interested in these genres. The second huge takeaway that I had from this course is a better understanding of my ideal reader. Now, once I was able to acknowledge and recognize my genres, it became so much easier to see who my ideal reader really is and to have a clear picture of her. I now know that she's a woman. I know that she's about 28 years old, living in the US. She's somebody who is curious about the world around her. She has a sense of adventure. I can answer all of these deeper questions about her now that I never could before. And I think in the past, I was really resistant to the idea of creating an ideal reader avatar or an ideal customer avatar, as you will sometimes hear it said in the bigger business world, because I felt as if doing so would pigeonhole me and my writing and make it uninteresting to anybody who is not that one ideal reader. And that's absolutely not the case. And I really appreciate the way that Sarah goes through this in her course and the fact that it is not a way of saying that nobody else will ever read your book, but it's simply helping you reach that type of reader and also reach that type of reader's expectations. And finally, I will say that the third takeaway of this course is really about having a long-term plan. And this may come across as pretty obvious to other people. And I think that it's a pretty obvious thing that you want to have in the entrepreneurial space. But as a self publishing author, I hadn't been treating my career as much as a business as I should. And really going through this course and coming up with a long term, in the sense of 5 years, a 5 year business plan. And because I know that I'll write about one book a year only, I have a 5 book plan. And that is something that I absolutely did not have before coming to this course. I had no idea where I wanted to go. And I will not hold myself to that. I definitely like to have plans, but to still keep things loose. So who knows if those exact stories will get written in that exact order. But now that I know the genre and I know what my readers are looking for, I was able to really sift through all the random story ideas I have and organize them in a way that I think that they will flow and meet reader expectations better. I've written an article about 2 years ago where I said, I want you to expect multiple genres from me. And I was very adamant about this. I did not want to be put in a box. I did not want to be a writer of only one genre. I wanted to have flexibility and explore my strengths in all different areas and write different types of stories and different types of characters. And I'm not going back on that. But I do see now the value of having some consistency first and establishing yourself in one genre first. And now, thanks to all of these takeaways, I feel like I have a plan to do that. So, as I said, now that I'm armed with that deeper information about my genre and that deeper information about my ideal reader, I know which stories I want to pursue and in which order. I know that these are all going to be focused on strong female leads who are also curious about their worlds, who are on a personal journey, who are changing their worldviews because of the situations happening around them. They're therefore very much literary fiction and women's fiction, but I'm also going to slowly be adding in the elements of other genres that interest me, such as romance, such as suspense, and definitely including the aspect of expat experiences, which I already explored in Snapshots of Spain, and kind of combining it with the focus on relationships and connections that I focused on in Fairly Familiar. And so I think in the past, I was a little bit nervous that my writing was going to be disjointed and somebody who read one book might go ahead and get the second book and not enjoy it as much. And now I feel far more confident that I'm able to really intentionally weave in the themes and the styles that are near and dear to my heart. So I'm super excited about all of these realizations, about all of these plans. And not only do I have that longer term plan of a 5 year business plan and what I intend to do in terms of my writing and in terms of my business over that time, I've also started to use a really bare bones version of Sarah's 90-day planning as well. I personally have not attended her HB90 boot camp where she goes into all of the details of how she does this really strategically, but I have taken the basics that she explains in the Publish and Thrive course, and I've already put it into action, setting myself up with a plan for 90 days. And I'm doing this actually on a rolling basis. So it's not the first 90 days of the year, but it's 90 days from when I started. So it starts March 15th and it's going to go till June 15th. And within that time frame, I have really specific goals that I want to meet. And I loved this aspect of how she plans. She focuses on the objective and what she wants to achieve, much more so than the specific tasks and the specific projects. Those, of course, come into meeting that goal. But I thought that it was a little bit different from the way that I've seen people planning in the past and the way that I've planned in the past. In the past, I've just thought like, oh, I want to make these YouTube videos, or oh, I want to send out a newsletter, or oh, I want to try out Reels on Instagram. But it was all over the place like that. It wasn't necessarily intentional. Whereas now, when I have the focus of growing my community and increasing engagement, I can then see how all of these pieces are connected and I can decide which are actually more useful to me. For example, I would much rather have people on my newsletter, on my mailing list so that they receive my newsletter, because then they're getting the most direct contact with me. I'm able to contact them and let them know about whatever sales or new projects I have. And that is more valuable to me than just trying out a new trend on Instagram. If I have extra time and it feels fun, sure, I'm going to try out those trends too. But I think that it's really helpful to see, does this align with my objective? And if not, it's not going in this 90-day plan. Maybe it'll come next in the next quarter, maybe it won't. But really taking a look at that has been extremely helpful for me. And I'm already on track to finish a second draft of my first novel by the end of this 90-day period, which is crazy. In the 90 days prior to this, I was just beginning to work on it, um, but very bare bones. I had no intentions in terms of when I would finish it or how I was going to be working on it. And so, really going in and realizing this is the intention, this is where I want to be, because in 90 days' time from when I set those goals, I want to be preparing for Camp NaNoWriMo. I want to give National Novel Writing Month a try again in July. Therefore, it's a really great opportunity for me to get this project into a decent enough state that I feel comfortable switching gears and moving on to the next project, which, fun fact, will actually be the first novel that I actually plan to publish. So that's another thing that this course has taught me. Although I'm working on a project right now, because of that flow I was telling you about, it's actually not the first novel that I plan to publish. So I will share more details about all of these things, what these story ideas are, and what it is I'm working on as I get closer to actually releasing one of these stories. But for the time being, it doesn't feel right to do that because it could be over a year before I actually publish the first one, let alone the second one. So I'm just taking it as it goes for now, but I wanted to tell you because I really took a lot out of this course and I feel like I have a lot up my sleeve because of it. And I'm really excited to keep moving forward with all of that. So to wrap up my thoughts today, you can kind of consider this a bonus fourth takeaway or just an overall reflection. I will say that I'm fully aware that the takeaways that I'm sharing right now are not the most unique pieces of advice. It's not as if I didn't know about needing to define my genre, or I didn't know about putting together an ideal reader avatar, or I didn't know about planning. Of course, I knew about these things before. But what I learned taking this course is that because I invested the money first and foremost to enter the course, and then invested so much of my time and my energy in completing the course, and because Sarah provided the resources and the worksheets to work through things like my ideal reader avatar and my author business plan and um, your ideal writer life workbook at the very beginning of the course, because I had all of these things coming together, I actually felt motivated to do them. And I think that is the final piece of the puzzle that is so important here. You can hear all the best advice in the world and you could know that it's wonderful advice. I knew that all of this was good advice, but I wasn't acting on it until I took this course. And so I'm not trying to push it by any means. You might find a different course or a different means of learning these things or motivating yourself that works better for you. But I realized that I needed this push, and I'm so glad that I set myself up for it because I do feel like I'm now on track to be thriving in this career. So those are my main takeaways. Thank you so much for checking out this video. I appreciate it so very much, and I hope that it was valuable for you. See you next time. Bye bye.